1 Kings chapter 15, verse 1. Abijah began to rule over Judah in the 18th year of Jeroboam's reign in Israel. Verse 2. He reigned in Jerusalem 3 years. His mother was Maacah, the granddaughter of Absalom. Verse 3. He committed the same sins as his father before him, and he was not faithful to the Lord his God, as his ancestor David had been. Verse 4. But for David's sake, the Lord his God allowed his descendant to continue ruling, shining like a lamp, and he gave Abijah a son to rule after him in Jerusalem. Verse 5. For David had done what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, and had obeyed the Lord's commands throughout his life, except in the affairs concerning Uriah the Hittite. Verse 6. There was war between Abijah and Jeroboam throughout Abijah's reign. Verse 7. The rest of the events in Abijah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. There was constant war between Abijah and Jeroboam. Verse 8. When Abijah died, he was buried in the city of David. Then his son Asa became the next king. Verse 9. Asa began to rule over Judah in the 20th year of Jeroboam's reign in Israel. Verse 10. He reigned in Jerusalem for 41 years. His grandmother was Maacah, the granddaughter of Absalom. Verse 11. Asa did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, and as his ancestor David had done. Verse 12. He banished the male and female shrine prostitutes from the land, and got rid of all the idols his ancestors had made. Verse 13. He even deposed his grandmother Maacah from her position as queen mother because she had made an obscene Asherah pole. He cut down her obscene pole and burned it in the Kidron Valley. Verse 14. Although the pagan shrines were not removed, Asa's heart remained completely faithful to the Lord throughout his life. Verse 15. He brought into the temple of the Lord the silver and gold and the various items that he and his father had dedicated. Verse 16. There was constant war between King Asa of Judah and King Baasha of Israel. Verse 17. King Baasha of Israel invaded Judah and fortified Ramah in order to prevent anyone from entering or leaving King Asa's territory in Judah. Verse 18. Asa responded by removing all the silver and gold that was left in the treasuries of the temple of the Lord and the royal palace. He sent it with some of his officials to Bet-Hadad, son of Tebrimon, son of Hezion, the king of Aram, who was ruling in Damascus, along with this message. Verse 19. Let there be a treaty between you and me, like the one between your father and my father. See, I am sending you a gift of silver and gold. Break your treaty with King Baasha of Israel, so that he will leave me alone. Verse 20. Ben-Hadad agreed to King Asa's request and sent the commanders of his army to attack the towns of Israel. They conquered the towns of Ijon, Dan, Abel-Beth-Maacah, and the Kinnereth, and all the land of Naphtali. Verse 21. As soon as Baasha of Israel heard what was happening, he abandoned his project of fortifying Ramah and withdrew to Tirzah. Verse 22. Then King Asa sent an order throughout Judah, requiring that everyone, without exception, help to carry away the building stones and timber that Baasha had been using to fortify Ramah. Asa used these materials to fortify the town of Geba in Benjamin and the town of Mizpah. Verse 23. The rest of the events of Asa's reign, the extent of his power, everything he did, and the names of the cities he built are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. In his old age, his feet became diseased. Verse 24. When Asa died, He was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. Then Jehoshaphat, Asa's son, became the next king. Verse 25, Nadab, son of Jeroboam, began to rule over Israel in the 2nd year of Asa's reign in Judah. He reigned in Israel 2 years. Verse 26, but he did what was evil in the Lord's sight and followed the example of his father, continuing the sin of that Jeroboam had led Israel to commit. Verse 27, then Baasha, son of Abijah, from the tribe of Issachar, plotted against Nadab and assassinated him while he and the Israelite army were laying siege to the Philistine town of Gibbethon. Verse 28, Baasha killed Nadab in the 3rd year of King Asa's reign in Judah, and he became the next king of Israel. Verse 29, he immediately slaughtered all the descendants of the king Jeroboam, so that no one of the royal family was left, just as the Lord had promised concerning Jeroboam by the prophet Abijah from Shiloh. Verse 30, this was done because Jeroboam had provoked the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, by the sins he had committed and the sins he had led Israel to commit. Verse 31, the rest of the events of Nadab's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. Verse 32, there was constant war between King Asa of Judah and King Baasha of Israel. Verse 33, Baasha, son of Abijah, began to rule over all Israel in the 3rd year of King Asa's reign in Judah. Baasha reigned in Tirzah 24 years. Verse 34, but he did what was evil in the Lord's sight and followed the example of Jeroboam, continuing the sins that Jeroboam had led Israel to commit. Amen.